India has reported its first death from coronavirus. The authorities have ordered schools, theatres and cinemas to close for the rest of the month, hoping to keep the pandemic at bay. The government in Karnataka said a 76-year-old man who died on Tuesday had now been confirmed as a coronavirus carrier. Within the past hour, organisers have cancelled this weekend's Australian Grand Prix because of coronavirus. The decision was made just hours before the first practice session was due to get underway in Melbourne. On Thursday, world champion Lewis Hamilton said he was stunned the race was still going ahead. Arsenal Football Club say their head coach Mikel Arteta has tested positive for the coronavirus as the pandemic affects sporting events around the world. The match against Brighton on Saturday has now been postponed. The English Premier League will hold an emergency meeting on Friday to discuss future fixtures. The French Football Federation has called off all matches until further notice. Shortly after holding the European premiere of the film Mulan without a red carpet event, Disney has announced that it's delaying the full release of the movie. Other movie releases that have been delayed over the virus outbreak include A Quiet Place 2, Fast and Furious 9, as well as the James Bond film No Time to Die. And Disneyland in California says it's closing its doors from this Saturday in response to the threat posed by the virus. It joins a number of prominent concerts, festivals, as well as other entertainment events that have been scrapped across the United States. It's the world's second most visited theme park, drawing tens of thousands of visitors each day. It will remain shut at least until the end of the month.
The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the country is facing the worst public health crisis in a generation.
There have been spectacular falls on financial markets around the world. The Dow recorded its worst day since 1987.
OK, should we take a look at some of the newspaper front pages from around the world? We're going to start with the Japan Times. There we go, sobering news, actually. It's warning of a last resort remedy for severe cases of Covid-19 may be in short supply. That's because specialist ECMO machines can be used to help coronavirus sufferers. But most of those available are already needed for patients with other serious heart and lung issues. OK, let's move on now to Singapore's The Business Times. It says the Prime Minister sees no need to raise the disease outbreak response level alert up to red, while Prime Minister Lee says the situation in Singapore remains under control. The paper reports he told a TV audience the outbreak could continue for up to a year or longer. And then let's take a look at the Financial Times, finally, which reports on what it's describing as the worst day for London's top 100 companies since the Black Monday crash back in 1987. The FTSE ended the day down 10.9%, and the FT says markets responded violently, really, to Donald Trump's travel ban on European countries. One analyst described that announcement that Donald Trump made as the most expensive speech in history.
As cases increase around the world, the American system of testing for coronavirus is described as inadequate by the country's leading public health official.
The way people in other countries are doing it, we're not set up for that. Do I think we should be? Yes, but we're not.
The outbreak pushes global stock markets into spectacular falls. Asian markets are all heading down. The Nikkei's already lost 10%. The Australian Grand Prix is cancelled just hours before the first practice session, the latest sporting fixture to fall prey to the pandemic.
While in Canada, the wife of the Prime Minister there, Justin Trudeau, has tested positive for coronavirus. Officials say Sophie Gregoire Trudeau has mild symptoms and is feeling well. Mr. Trudeau will self-isolate with his wife for the next 14 days.
Tom Hanks says he and his wife Rita Wilson are taking it one day at a time after they were both diagnosed with coronavirus. Oscar-winning actors shared an update on social media revealing the pair remain in isolation and joked that there is no crying in baseball.
Now, the tourism industry is warning the coronavirus pandemic could put millions of jobs at risk. The World Travel and Tourism Council says the outbreak presents a significant threat and is calling for a range of measures, including a reduction in taxes and a bigger budget for promoting tourist destinations.
Access to Mount Everest has been closed for the rest of the expedition season because of the outbreak. Nepal's government says it will cancel all climbing permits from tomorrow until the end of April and stop giving out tourist visas. China's also blocked access to Everest from its side of the border. It's 15 minutes past 6 right now. Let's have a look at today's papers. Friday morning, of course. The Express, you can see there, Boris Johnson's warning that many more families will lose loved ones from the coronavirus. That's the front page of the Daily Express. The paper says it's a bleak but frank assessment of the emergency facing the country.
And this is the Daily Telegraph saying that it is critical that next steps announced by the Prime Minister amount to a nuanced response. The paper says other countries have been much more robust in what they've been doing. We will speak to the government's chief scientist a bit later on and ask why the UK's response is so different to other countries.
The Daily Mirror also asks, is it enough? The paper carries quotes from the former Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt, who says many people will be surprised and concerned we're not moving sooner. And the most read on the BBC News Online website is the news that the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie are in 14-day isolation after she tested positive for coronavirus. Mr Trudeau is in good health and has no symptoms at the moment. Schools, colleges and childcare facilities are beginning the first day of a shutdown in the Republic of Ireland. The government is asking people to work from home if possible and to reduce social contact. The country has 70 confirmed cases and one person has died. Now, there are now almost 600 confirmed coronavirus cases here in the UK. That's a jump of 140 in 24 hours. But according to the government's chief scientific advisor, it's likely that up to 10,000 people could be infected. 10 people have now died. The worldwide figures, well, more than 125,000 people have been diagnosed with the virus in 118 countries. Here in the UK, experts say peak infection rates are still up to 3 months away, possibly heading into June. Big questions around schools and colleges in Ireland. They've been closed until the end of March as part of measures to stop the spread of the virus there. But Downing Street says schools here will remain open for now after taking into consideration the latest scientific advice.